Hey again, everyone. Welcome back to another casual behind-the-scenes style shoot for the Azukail Games channel. I promise I will get you back to regular programming in the very near future, but at the moment, I figured we had a bit of a unique opportunity. I don't usually go in for New Year's resolutions, but seeing as we are at the beginning of 2025, I wanted to take a couple of moments to actually lay out some of the goals I have as a creator and some of the things I'm hoping to do with Azukail Games going forward this year. Because I have a lot of them, quite honestly, and I realized the other day I wrote them down in a notebook and mostly kept them to myself. So if there's nothing else comes of this, I'm hoping that some folks out there get excited by some of the things I have planned, some of the things I want to do, and that you can come with me on this journey. And so when you see me getting closer to these goalposts, we can all get a little bit excited about it, or at the very least, get a little bit of anticipation as you wait to see which of them crosses the finish line and which ones might have to wait till next year. But starting off at the beginning, my main goal, and this is something that I tried really hard to get done last year, but there are only so many hours in a day and only so many words you can put on a page. And it's that I want to hit 200 supplements available on the open market. And there are probably a lot of folks out there who are scratching their heads, but if you put my name into DriveThruRPG, as of right now, let's see what day it is. This is being recorded on the 14th of January, 2025. As of today, I have 188 supplements that come up on DriveThruRPG with my name in the credits. So getting another 12 of them, especially since I currently, at time of recording, have 5 supplements submitted to Azukail Games that have not yet been published, seems like a bit of a slam dunk. But 200 is a number I've been shooting for a while, and it's something that I think is kind of a milestone. So while that is an easy goal, it is one that not a lot of people are aware of because they're only aware of me for Sundara, or they only know about me for Army Men, or they only check out a couple of my fantasy or sci-fi supplements, and they don't really realize how long I've been doing this and how much stuff out there has my name on it. So if you're curious, absolutely, by all means, go to DriveThruRPG and check me out, see what other stuff I've been working on that you might have missed over the years. But moving on from easy goals, I want to move on to something that's a little more complicated. So this one is for Army Men. If you haven't checked it out, Army Men is my first official RPG that I made. It came out roughly a year ago. We're coming up on the anniversary. There's should be a bundle deal for it. If they're still going on at time of video release, link will be in the description below. If it's not, I'm sorry you missed it and I couldn't get this out to you faster. But for those not familiar with Army Men, it's basically a game where you play living plastic people in a living plastic world, and your nations are currently at war with gigantic insectoid creatures known as Vespoids. And while I've got a lot of supplements for it, and the base book itself did fairly well on Kickstarter, I really want to push it a little bit further. So first of all, I really want to get the other 4 missions that I've been cooking on out and done by the end of the year, or at the very least submitted by the end of the year. Currently, there is 1 mission in the base book for folks to just try out and see how this game they bought actually plays. And we released a new mission a little while ago from Azukail Games of A Night at Brecken's Beacon, which takes place in the nation of United Polymeria. And I wanted to have missions for each of the other nations, as well as the Plastos Federation as a whole, so that folks could kind of play all the different factions, try some different playstyles, and see what it is that appealed to them before sitting down making a full campaign. And that is proving a little tougher than I was hoping, honestly, because as I've mentioned before, I like writing modules, I like writing adventures, but it's very difficult to work on something when you know in the back of your head, maybe 6 to 12 people are actually going to buy this, and of them, maybe 3 of them are actually going to play it. It's really tough working on game stuff that you're really passionate about, that you know for a fact not a lot of people really enjoy or care about. So if you want to prove me wrong on this one, please go out and grab copies of my game modules, because the more people buy them, the more people play them, the more people review them, talk about them, etc., the easier it becomes for me to justify making space in my monthly schedule to work on more of them. But we're not done with Army Men goals yet for this year, because I was really hoping by the end of 2024 to push the base book over copper metal status. And we didn't quite make it. I believe we're about 6 or 7 sales away from finally getting it to a metal level. But I would really, really love for 2025 to push it all the way up to silver status. And that is a big ask, especially for an indie RPG. So I wanted to take a moment at the beginning of the year to make it clear that's not just a thing I would like to see, that's not just a pie in the sky. I will attach a reward to you all for that if you help me get Army Men into silver status by the end of 2025. Because there have been a lot of folks asking me to do either a live play or an actual playthrough of the game. Just one mission module, get some folks together, just do a full game setup for it. And I have resisted doing that for many of the same reasons I resist working on adventure modules, is because the amount of views it would take to get on a channel like this on YouTube, where it's a return on investment, is astronomical. We would need 10,000 plus views to just make it worthwhile to actually make the thing. And on top of that, you need at least that many sales for people to actually start buying copies. And the market is, frankly, glutted with actual play videos, actual play groups. So doing an actual play for a mostly unheard of indie RPG, I am fully capable of doing that. I could get a crew together. I could find a place where we could actually make this happen. I could acquire the equipment and just cobble it together from all the different sources I have. I could edit it, put in the sound effects, all of those things. But oh boy, it is a lot of time, energy, and work. We're talking probably a month and change of effort, working regularly every day on it, just to make it presentable. So, if the game gets to silver status, and that's a thing you want to see, I will make that happen. It might take me a little while to organize things, but that is a pledge I'm making right now, is if we get Army Men, its core book, not even necessarily the supplements, just the core book, into silver medal status by the end of 2025, I will run at least one actual play module. So if that's the thing you've wanted to see, if you want to see the channel expand to that kind of content, this is a way you could help make that happen. Get a copy of the book for yourself if you haven't yet. If you already have, make sure you go to DriveThruRPG, leave a review, tell your friends about it, play the game a little this year, see whether or not you can get the rest of your group really invested in it. But that's not the only group of goals that I have. This one, we're moving on to my big project, which has been kind of my baby the past couple of months that I've been working on, which is Windy City Shadows. Now, for folks who are not regular viewers of Discussions of Darkness, or maybe you didn't hear me talk about this on my blog, this is something that I have been stewing on for quite some time. Now, if you watch the channel regularly at all, you know we have a lot of audio dramas on here. I will go through and I will take the introductory fiction from whatever's being released, and I will dramatize it, and I will make a fun little thing for people to listen to, kind of give them an idea of what this supplement is going to be about. And when I started doing that, some of the earliest adaptations I made were for World and Chronicles of Darkness games, particularly for Changeling the Lost, which is one of my favorite games. And a lot of folks who listened to that said these were really interesting, they really liked these. They were wondering why I kept doing just shorts that were 5 to 8 minutes instead of doing full episodes or a full podcast. And that idea just sort of squirreled away in the back of my head. And when I had to step away from doing Storyteller's Vault content for, pricing reasons, I had a lot of story threads that were just kind of unconnected and dangling in the breeze. I'd meant to finish them up to wind up stories as I released new supplements, but since I wasn't releasing new supplements, they were just kind of hanging there. I want to wrap those up by putting together Windy City Shadows, which is a Chronicles of Darkness, audio drama podcast. Now, for clarity, there's no dice are going to hit the table. There's not going to be a group of people sitting around a table recording. This is full-on audio drama. If I'm writing scripts, I'm getting actors in to perform. We're going to have all the sound effects, all the story. Everything is going to be neatly wrapped up. And I'm giving everybody at least one season to sort of try it out, see how they like it, and if this is a project you all want me to keep going. Because, and I cannot emphasize this enough, I love doing things like this, but they are labor and time intensive. Because it took me roughly 1 month to just sort of storyboard out what I wanted to do for the first season, which is going to be a Changeling the Lost drama. For those who haven't seen me talk about or heard any of the interviews, it's basically modern fantasy John Wick is sort of the fast pitch for Grim Promises. It's going to be 10 episodes, and it's going to be a full, complete story. There's going to be no dangling plot threads. There's going to be no cliffhangers for the next season, and it's going to be fully complete so that you can listen to it and you can decide, do you want more things like this? And while it will, involve some additional things, there'll be previews and character bios, things like that. We'll get to that in a moment. But it's going to be a full, complete product. To really bring home how much effort this is going to take, when I set out to put the scripts together, I made it very clear I'm going to do 10 of them. Each one is looking like it's going to be roughly 7,000 to 8,000 words, which doesn't sound like a lot. That's less than a monthly supplement. But when you have 10 episodes, that comes down to 70 or 80,000 words total, which is the length of a pretty decent novel. So I'm essentially writing a whole novel in 10 parts. I am then turning that novel into an audiobook with multiple performers, sound effects, soundscaping, etc. And that is not a small undertaking. So I'm going to give a timeline for folks, and this is what I am hoping to hold myself to as a creator. But as of right now, it's looking like I can get maybe one script done per month, maybe a little bit faster if some things on my plate clear up, or if funding comes in from other sources. But that's currently what I'm looking at, is one script every 1 to 2 months, 6 weeks if we're being generous. Now, I am hoping to have the entire first season scripted and written out by the end of 2025. And I would like, this is my personal stretch goal, to start recording by the fall. If not by the fall, definitely by the beginning of next winter, end of this year. Now, this is where things can get a little complicated, because that's just giving folks a timeline, keeping myself open so everybody knows what I'm doing and what's actually going on with this project that I talked a lot about. And I don't want you thinking I just dropped it once we made monetization. But I have some other things that I want to be doing for it, and this is where I ask you all a question, because this is going to come into the goals and it's going to feature in what it is I'm doing. Because I have scripts for a couple of previews, a couple of commercials more or less for it, and I was hoping to put those out before the actual episode started hitting to sort of build hype and get people excited for it. In addition to those previews, those commercials, I was also thinking of doing character bios or sort of a character introduction so that folks who come into the series get a bit of a preview as to who it is we're following around and who some important named characters are going to be. But also just a fun extra thing to just build excitement and give some folks more lore about what it is that I'm doing and what's going on. And these are things that will take time away from other projects. They will take more energy for me to make, but they will show up on the channel as well as on the podcast, which I have reserved. It's ready to go. I just haven't put the content on it yet. More information on that as we go. But I'm bringing all of that up so that I can ask you all as the audience, what part of that goal interests you most? What are you most excited about? What would you like to see? And backing up to talk about all my goals in general, which of these excite you the most as the audience? Which ones are you most here for? Which ones are you surprised by or didn't even know was a thing? Because I know that we have a lot of diverse content just on the YouTube channel, much less the content Azukail Games puts out. And if you only come here for one thing, maybe you're here for sci-fi supplements, or you're here for Sundara, or you're here for Army Men, it can sometimes slip through the cracks that we do so much. So, for the rest of January, going into 2025 strong, I would like everyone here to please do me a favor. I want you to go down into the comments, tell me which goal you're most excited by, and which one you would be willing to support. Are you going to show up and listen to the show? Are you going to grab copies of Army Men? Are you just hoping that we get that 200 mark that I mentioned, which might even happen by my birthday if I'm really lucky? These little things are important for us because, as I mentioned, channel just got monetization, and we need as much forward momentum as we can, because I am hoping that as the channel expands and grows, it will start funding other things that we do, because it all feeds into the same source, and we're trying to diversify as much as we can while making sure that you all have to spend the least amount of money possible. So your eyes, your ears, just the amount of time you give us, those are all valuable commodities as surely as you going to Drive Through RPG and just buying stuff from us. It all adds up at the end of the day, even if it doesn't feel significant at any one time. But that's all for this update. We will be back to scheduled programming in the very near future, so stay tuned for that. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell if you haven't so that you don't miss anything that comes out. And hope to see you next time. Till then, happy gaming, everybody.